This is the CreaseCast.
We're looted, we're booted, vaxxed, waxed.
We're on the what is it, the bus? We're on the what's the Fortnite bus called?
I don't know. I never played Fortnite. I played one game of Fortnite with my buddy, and we both were like, we're too old for this. There's too much happening. We can't keep up.
It's just Warzone, but cartoons.
It's
really,
not.
Isn't it?
There's two different things to Fortnite, because there's like the actual shooting side, but it's all very cartoony, and then there's the looting and mining side, like from Minecraft, where you break down everything, all the terrain, all the buildings, everything.
Ooh,
and then you build walls and like ramps, like fortresses in the middle of gunfights. So it's like incredibly complex, and you have to have like a child's brain working at 1,000,000 miles a minute to be able to manage both. And so me and him,
sounds like my game.
We grabbed like rocket launchers and like hid in the woods because we were so scared. We were like, we can't do this. We're too old. We can't process this game fast enough.
Some of those damn like 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds are really good. Are really good at games.
So like in the summer, we had the Warzone tournament that was hosted by Faber and Quads, and they had Claudette show up. And the kids that were in that were so fucking good that I think of myself as like a pretty decent Warzone player. Like when I'm on, I can be really goddamn good. I felt like I had never played the game before in my life when our squad had encountered some of these like kids that were playing who would just like roll in, 3 hit you, and you're dead. And I was like, oh, I don't ever want to play this game again. I'm good. And then I feel so inadequate.
And then he never did. No.
And then I never.
I was in that tournament, and that was, I believe, the. I played a little bit. I had practiced beforehand, but I'm very bad at it. I'm bad at all. Like any sort of like shooting game, I'm useless at. It was very funny because I recruited a couple of my buddies from like not from the world to come and play with me, and I guess they're actually really good. And at first I was like, oh god, did I accidentally like bring in a bunch of like ringers, and are people gonna hate me because I suck and I just brought in like 2 really good guys to play with me? And they were basically just dragging me to any sort of place. It was very, very funny.
You're like, what do I do?
Literally, the closest I came to doing anything interesting in that entire game was I believe we came up on Wyatt from Trust the Process, the stanchion, and I think I like grazed him with a shot, like I got him like in the shoulder or something, and then of course he immediately turns around and just gone. I'm just gone. Yeah, just bumped me. I was like so close. I literally told him after, I'm like, dude, I was so close to getting you, getting you, and then you just one-shotted me, and I was gone. I don't play those types of games because, look, I'm
for that very reason.
For that very reason, I'm not good at them. I've never played Fortnite. I'm very much a very calm type of gamer. I don't make any sort of like moves or decisions, that end up working in my favor in those games. Usually I just miss. I have the right semblance of the idea, and then it goes wrong somehow. And that's kind of where we're getting to right now with Seattle, and with the Seattle draft coming up and everything going on with it. Like, I mean, we had the Nick Leddy trade just a minute ago. And that was interesting.
By the time you folks finish or even start listening to this episode, it's going to be completely out of date. So we're going to try and blaze through this one to get it in your ears as soon as possible. Folks, welcome to another episode of the CreaseCast. CreaseCast episode 130. I don't know if is there a significant number, like in 130 or 13 in Canucks history?
113 was Matt Sundin's number when he played for the Canucks, and I believe everyone else. He is most known though for his time with the Canucks. And
well, then that fits with our theme of this episode, because we're talking about players that are likely going to be shifted around here, around the league for 1-year deals, because that's just the way things go right now in hockey. The Spanish draft is 12 p.m. Eastern time or something tomorrow. or 12 p.m. Pacific.
So the freeze is tomorrow. The freeze
Correct.
is tomorrow, and then the actual draft itself is, I believe, on Wednesday.
I think, yeah,
Wednesday,
because
it's the
they
day
get like a
after we
negotiating
record another
window.
show.
Once the rosters get frozen, the Kraken are allowed to negotiate with all pending UFAs to try and negotiate deals or whatever with them.
That is going to be a very interesting wrinkle, because I feel like I feel like that might be the part of this that we haven't actually talked about all that much. Is the fact that, like, hey, there are some guys who are upcoming UFAs that are pretty big names. Like, well, I mean, again, when I say that, obviously, if you went to look at pending UFAs right now, the top one would be like Alex Ovechkin, but that's not happening. But
you never know.
You never know. I don't know if I think Ovi just became recently like part owner of a women's pro soccer team in Washington, so I don't think he's planning on going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. So I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, maybe he wants to invest in the Seattle Sounders as well. I believe they have a very similar ownership structure. So,
perhaps.
Maybe it's for him.
But before we get into the expansion draft stuff, why don't we quickly talk about the first bit of Canucks related news, because we were hoping to talk about this last episode, but there was a delay because the Vancouver Canucks didn't want to rush greatness. They wanted to take their time with the reveal of the branding of their AHL team. And as not really promised, but at 10:25 a.m. on Wednesday, 25 minutes after they were supposed to have dropped it, they revealed their branding, their logo, their team name, and all of it was, I mean, depending on what you think about the Johnny Canuck logo and the jerseys in general, thoroughly underwhelming is about what you can describe it. They are the Abbotsford Canucks. They are using a Johnny Canuck emblem as their team logo. The jersey is basically a modified version of a jersey they released in 2015 for St. Patrick's Day, just with modified sleeves that have the Abbotsford A on it, and there's a bit more white piping, but otherwise it's pretty much something they already had in their repertoire, which is pretty disappointing for people like you and myself who love jerseys and logos and all that.
Yeah, we have a
bit lame. So if you are following us on our YouTube channel, you can see a bit of what we're talking about here. If you haven't kept up with the news,
we have it right here. But you know what? I'm sorry. This is actually the Canucks alternate logo from 2008, 2009. Let me actually go to the right one. Which is right here. I'm sorry, that was the wrong page. This. Oh wait, it's exactly the same.
Wait.
It's the exact same logo.
Exact same.
It would be the exact same. Okay.
So here, I'll ask you first. What do you like the Johnny Canuck logo on its own?
Okay, so yeah, just from an objective, if we're just talking objective,
just the logo itself, yeah.
I think it's like okay. I don't get people's fascination with it. Like, people seem to really love this logo for some reason. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's fine. Like, it's not great. Like, looking at it even right now, I'm looking at it like, okay, you guys can't see it on my screen, but I guess here it is right here. Just looking at it right now, I'm like, okay, so this logo, for starters, I can't actually tell when you're looking at it. You can't tell where his mouth is, or if it has a mouth. Like, that's kind of the weird thing.
That's his mustache, right?
Right. Like, that's what I'm pretty sure. That's a mustache, and that's supposed to be like the beard
like
combo,
his chin
kind of
and mouth combo.
But if you're looking at it in another way, he actually kind of looks like it's a Muppet face, where it's got like the nose, but like the mouth is right underneath the nose, and that's like that negative shade in area right here. That negative.
He actually looks like
the mouth. It looks like
he looks like the Pringles can guy.
Oh my God, you're right. He kind of looks like the Pringles guy.
Yeah, I'm just noticing this right now. I'm like, oh yeah,
minus the mustache.
It's Pringles logo. That's
Okay, so here's like the new Pringles man who actually was like really hated.
It's the dotted eyes, right? The mustache is just not as solid, but it's pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, but you're totally
I'm in the same boat, right? Because like, I don't understand the appeal to it. as like a logo because I've never really associated it with anything to do with the Canucks. Like it's just like
so
they introduced it. They had the Johnny Canuck guy who had like the hype up videos at games and in-game videos,
and that was cool. That stuff was kind of there's the kind of the connector. Yeah, it's the eyes, and then it's But like, imagine if instead of the mustache, like it's just like there's no.
Yeah, it's just a hipster mustache, but like
yeah, that's it's just if the Pringles guy had a beard, basically. That's very funny.
And was a little angry.
That is really funny. The only time they've ever used that logo on any sort of actual like official team uniform is it was the decal for the helmets on the stick and rink jersey they used back in the Reebok era. So like that from 09, the Luongo era jerseys.
I think they had it as a shoulder patch at one point too.
They had the face, which was on with like the V. With the V, which is a different logo,
which I don't like at all, by the way.
Again, another logo that some people absolutely love and swear by. It's fine. I actually would argue that I like that one more than I like the full body version. I think, and this is kind of why I'm very annoyed about this logo. So it's not objectively, like if you put that Johnny Canuck logo on like a t-shirt or something, or like a jacket or a hat or something, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's very cool. That's a cool looking shirt. I would buy that, or I would wear that kind of thing. It's kind of retro. It's a modernized version of a retro drawing, but it's kind of cool. It's interesting. But for a sports jersey specifically, it is a terrible logo to use. Because it's not very symmetrical. It's kind of all over the place. When you show it on the actual pictures, like if I were able to have the time to like pull up the actual like promo shots they used for when they announced the uniforms and everything with like Francesco Aquilini and Jim Benning, and I'm not sure the guy dropping the puck was in the middle. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody knows who that is. I
think he was a former player for the actual team that wore the Vancouver Giants logo.
I don't know. Maybe like Mayor of Abbotsford or something. I don't think so.
No, the Mayor of Abbotsford's a bit younger, I'm pretty sure. But I think he was like a former player or something that they flew out. But
right. But either way, like from that far back, you can't even really tell what it is. Like it just kind of looks like, it looks more almost like a windmill, really. It looks kind of like if you're looking at it from that distance, it actually just kind of looks like a weirdly like blurry windmill, because there's like the legs are like different parts of like the windmill parts. It's kind of, it doesn't look great. Again, and I saw some people saying this would be better as an alternate logo or like on the shoulder patch. And I'm like, yes, that is correct. It would look better in those spots. So the fact that they went with it here, especially the fact that they have him wearing a green shirt, like they kept the green shirt. He's wearing a green shirt in the logo. And then they put it on a green jersey, which makes it harder to see. Like, it's just all of these things that really just show the fact that they didn't put any time into this. They didn't put any time or effort. The stripes don't match on the two jerseys that they picked. They don't match. Like, again, another just kind of a why? Like, why don't the two uniforms you're wearing have a matching striping setup? Why are they both completely different from one another? That makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And it just like kind of underscores like just how lazy the reveal was. And the fact that they delayed it by a week, you just question like, what were you delaying for? And how could you honestly use the phrase, we can't rush greatness, when all you're doing is just like picking up something from the back room and reusing it again? It's so incredibly lazy. And for a team that like as you and I both know, like the team hasn't really given the fan base any reason to root for them. Like, sure, they've drafted some stars, but like last year was so miserable that all they needed was like a little W to show like, hey guys, we're really trying. We really care about your guys' fandom. We want to give you an AHL team that you're going to be proud to cheer for.
Yeah.
Instead of, committing like a graphic designer or whatever, like a video producer, like assets to actually make like a brand or design a brand like that people are going to say like, yeah, that's a team I can support. Like, hell yeah, they are really trying here. They just phoned it in.
Completely.
Like I believe Utica or Robert Esche registered for the trademark for the Utica Devils back on, I don't know, like April 13th or something like that. So
right.
like
and
4 months ago or 3 months ago, sorry.
And even if that might not necessarily mean that it was a for sure done deal that they were leaving, at the very least, you had the team had some sort of semblance that they might be on that might be taking the team elsewhere by that point. So
at that point,
they had time to start planning have a plan B ready to go.
Yeah, if 3 months ago Robert Esche was thinking, oh shit, they're going to be leaving, I better cover my bases, then 3 months ago is when the Canucks should have been doing their due diligence to prep a brand launch. Like I said it on 2 of the podcasts I was on this week.
I love how you got invited onto 2 podcasts to talk about the jerseys and the uniforms and stuff. I think this is the fantastic. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I was when I was about to write the notes for this, I had to remember, like, did we talk about this already? I've talked about it so much in a span of 48 hours. I had no idea if I was already, like, I had already done it like in the previous day, but yeah, I on those 2 podcasts, I was like, the actual like logo or like the logo itself, right? It's like whatever, the name is whatever, but just like the choice, to be as lazy as they were for a pro sports franchise. Like the team just launched a pro sports franchise in BC. Like that's a pretty significant thing to do. Like Canadian,
even if it is the
provinces
NHL.
Don't get pro sports franchises that often. More often than not, you see franchises leave. Look at the Montreal Expos. Look at like Newfoundland Growlers. They had that one team beforehand that they had to leave because they couldn't afford it in the ECHL. They finally got the Trois-Rivières Lions for the ECHL in Quebec. So that's 3 pro sports franchises in the last like 5 years into Canada, and 2 of them are the ECHL. So this is a pretty big deal to get like a second tier hockey league into Canada.
Into your own backyard.
And the overwhelming reaction was nobody gives a shit. Like all the people like you and I who are like, the logo's kind of a loss. I don't know if it's that great. There's way too much green on the logo, and it doesn't give you any indication that it's a Canucks team affiliation.
Now, I will quibble with that. I did see you did the whole like the thing on like the thread. I will argue, like, to be fair, the team is called the Canucks. I do think people will know instantly who it is. I don't think that's the hard part.
If you made that logo black and white, you have and you showed it to like a 6-year-old kid and you said, "Hey kid, what team is this team affiliated with?"
I think I think the kid would ask you, "What's an affiliate?"
Okay, they'd be like, "Okay, this team,
like, what is that?"
Okay, kid. Okay, 8-year-old. This team is the brother of an NHL team. What NHL team do you think they're the brother of? That kid would be like,
if it's
I don't know. Give me my candy. Like,
okay.
If you really look at the logo, like I couldn't believe this on the first watch. This is why I really tweeted about how there's no brand representation. It doesn't say Abbotsford anywhere. It doesn't say Vancouver anywhere. It doesn't have it has the stick and rink patch, which is like, again, a nostalgia thing. So you really have to know.
Which is noticeably absent from the prototypes that they're wearing. Very interesting.
They don't have the whale logo on either jersey of the shoulder patches. That's the team's main logo on their NHL franchise, and it's not included.
I mean,
that's insane.
I guess the Comets didn't though either. So
yeah, they did. They had they were the stick in the rink.
They were just the stick in the rink. They didn't have the Orca on the uniforms anywhere.
If I had time, I'd run to my closet right now and I'd check my jersey. But
I'm pretty sure
I'll believe you. But
okay, yeah.
My point stands though. Like if you're moving a team like to your backyard and you're trying brand synergy, like wouldn't you want the main logo, like your Orca logo, as the shoulder patch, so you just like know like this is the affiliate? Like I pointed out, the Tucson Roadrunners AHL franchise is affiliate of Arizona. Their shoulder patches are the Arizona State shoulder patch
which they share with
Coyotes do,
with the Coyotes,
and it's on the actual Roadrunner skater too. Like, so all you have to do is modify Johnny Canuck to have the whale logo shoulder patch on his chest or something. That's all you really need to do.
So you know what? That might honestly that might actually make me like that jersey more. If like they had it like not if they did straight up what is that joke jersey everybody always posts anytime a new Canucks jersey comes out, where it's like the orca skating with like flying
Orca
skates
boy?
On its feet. Yeah, Orca Boy. Is that what it's called? Orca Boy, and it's got like literally every single patch
jersey
that they've worn. Yeah,
that
it's like a piece of every
funny.
Single patch. It's very funny. I do enjoy it. And is also why why the one thing I like about these uniforms is that they're green and blue. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, they should have done the old skate cut. They should have just done the old skate jerseys and brought those back." And I'm like, okay, like maybe like those would be better, like in terms of like logo wise and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But green and blue is your brand now. You got to stick with that. That does have to be
they've clearly committed to green and blue,
which is the right call.
Which is the right call.
It's their best color combination.
Yeah, it's just what they've done to embrace the green and blue for the AHL franchise is like the laziest thing imaginable, right?
Yeah,
like the striping on it isn't even good. It's just a big giant green shirt.
Like why is
so much green?
Why is the striping on the like, so the one thing, so one of the design elements that could be kind of cool about these uniforms, like and for the record, I do like that they went with a green jersey rather than a blue home jersey.
Yeah.
Specifically because the Canucks already have enough blue jerseys, and I wanted to see them embrace green a little bit more.
The Comets, sorry to interject, but the Comets' third jersey that was the green with the white shoulders,
was their best one.
That was their best jersey on the farm.
I've for a long time have been clamoring for the Canucks to make a version of that jersey as their third jersey. But they also have like the old Vancouver V sort of thing from the on the jersey, like but like turned around for an A. But for some reason, it's the striping isn't even. So it's a big blue. So there's like a big blue stripe and then a tiny green stripe, and they've done it in this way where, like, I guess where I'm like, you could just still have them both those stripes be the same size and have them have it go straight down the middle, right? You didn't have to make them this very weird where one is bigger than the other and they look super all the stripes on the uniform are different. Like, why did you do that? Why are they all different? I don't know.
It's because they rushed it, right? It's just like
it's because they completely
grabbed whatever green jerseys they had in the back, and then they put some white piping to make the A, and then threw the Johnny Canuck thing on it. We're like, "Okay, go take pictures. We don't have time."
Somebody said they looked like EA Sports, like NHL, like created jerseys, like the default striping, and they're like, and particularly with the road jersey, they're not wrong. Like it does, it looks straight up like they just took jersey template 1 or A.
Yeah.
And just started throwing the colors in that matched or actually, you know what they did is they picked like the team colors for the Canucks and then went sync up and then click the sync with the rest of the uniform sort of button where it just automatically puts it in the places.
Defaults the rest. Yeah.
It just defaults those colors for you and you're like, that's good. That's
good enough. I don't have time. I just want to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I put I put up that one prototype idea prototype, by which I mean I literally just colored the flying skate green and blue to match, and then threw it over top of the Johnny Canuck and was like, "Hey, look, I fixed it. It's a Canucks logo that actually it says Canucks. It actually is different. It's a logo that actually looks like it might fit on that uniform. It is not perfect, but it is much better than what you gave us." And I saw like a lot of people liked it. I did see some people who were like, "You suck, try again." And I'm like, buddy, this was 5 minutes. I think you're trying to insult me and be like, somebody was like, "Don't quit your day job." It's like, I mean, I already did, but but also
the bottom
dude,
line
this took
is
5
like,
minutes. If you're trying to insult me, I really don't care that much.
You're just like isolating the fact that it took you 5 minutes to mock up a jersey and it still it's probably as much time, if not more, than what they spent to design their own.
Honestly, yeah, because people might think that that's a joke, but in reality, the jersey that they used is a logo that they did not alter based on a jersey that they've already had as a fashion, as I believe it was like some fashion jersey.
It was called a fashion jersey for St.
Yeah,
Patrick's Day.
It was never worn on the ice. It was specifically just for sale in like the Canucks store and on NHL.com, and that was it. And I believe at the time, what's really funny is if you go back and look for those articles, I think people thought they were an alternate jersey and hated them at the time and thought they sucked. So it's kind of funny that now that they're brought back, some people suddenly like them all of a sudden. So yeah, I might have in reality actually put in somewhat more time than anyone else did into that uniform just by coloring a new logo differently. And the one last thing I did want to say on this before, I don't know if you wanted to, I'm assuming because you've already talked about this a lot, you're ready to move on to some other things. The one thing that I did want to also interject about these uniforms and about why this is kind of important, because I did see I saw some people talk about everyone is making way too big of a deal about this. It's a jersey for an AHL team. Who cares, right? It's not that big a deal. And they are, and to be fair, they're kind of right. It's a little bit, it's maybe we're making too big a deal about what a uniform is for, again, a farm team. It might not be that big a deal. At the end of the day, it's obviously not, it's not meant to be like a big money-making venture. It's just meant to be a team that produces your prospects for you. But I will say this, that one of the things we always talk about on the show is that even the smallest decisions that a team and an organization makes give you insight into what the bigger picture is. And when a team shows me a jersey that that they are presenting to me as brand new, that has a logo I've already seen before, that they did not make any changes to, with a jersey that is frankly the same as a jersey that they've worn in the past before, and basically shows that it was somewhat of a lazy attempt in this uniform, that does worry me about the other decisions that they make. What happens when other big decisions come up? Because really a branding decision should be very important to you. It should be something that you put time and effort into getting right, especially when you're entering what is technically a new market in Abbotsford. That is a decision that you should take very seriously. And it doesn't seem like they took it really. It seems like they very much just were like, we're just going to slap a logo that we already have on it, call it a day, because that's the easiest option. Now when you get to questions about, with coming up with the Seattle expansion draft, what do I do with this player? Are we going to expose this guy? Or maybe, hey, this player needs to be protected. Who are we going to sign to make sure that we can keep this player? That worries me, because I see all the other details that they could be taking their time on and not. It worries me that they're going to make rushed, quick, lazy decisions when it comes to what goes on with the hockey team, with the actual on-ice Canucks NHL team, what they do with at their own building. It may not seem like a big deal, but it all paints a bigger picture. And that's why it does matter when you see something like this. And it should concern you a little bit that that's the amount of effort that went into it, because that means that that's the kind of decision-making that you might see with decisions that matter a whole lot more.
Yeah, I think it was the day after where Daily Hive posted an article too, showing that after they had announced the Abbotsford team was up and running, the Canucks Sports and Entertainment had posted 60 job applications for their team, which optically it's pretty gross, because it's they probably could have, maybe they did. We have no idea. They might have reached out to all the employees they furloughed and laid off, and they already had new positions. But it's a pretty damning look, and kind of explains the laziness of the entire AHL brand launch, because incorporated in some of those job applications are things like graphic designer, social media manager, social media content producer. So whoever it was that was in charge of this rollout of the AHL franchise brand obviously was someone probably very high up who didn't
or it
usually
was
do this stuff on
somebody,
his own.
or somebody below their, who's, who's
their
like
pay
a
grade.
lower employee having to punch way above their pay grade and do something that they've never been trained on. And, that's kind of tough for them
The results
to
show.
throw them into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So all in all, very disappointing. But anyway, let's move on to some other Canucks news that, depending on where you sit on this, is either good news, exciting news, or just kind of a little middle of the road news. But for me, it's very shocking to see that Alex Edler, through his agent, has decided that he is going to test free agency. He didn't explicitly say this in an interview with Vancouver media, but basically implied that the losing was very hard on Alex Edler. And after years of basically saying he only knows Vancouver, he doesn't have any interest in waiving his no trade clause and moving elsewhere. He's pretty much content with where he's at, and because he doesn't know anything outside of Vancouver, he's content to stay. Well, that contentness has worn off. He's 36 now, or he's turning 36, 37, whatever it is. He's looking for his cup ring. He doesn't see that it's going to happen with the Canucks this year, maybe in the next year either. And so,
which is fair.
Which is completely fair. He's put in so much time for this organization. Drafted in 2002 or 2003, I believe.
A long time
WHL
ago.
And has just been an absolute workhorse for this team. Like one of their franchise all-time greatest defensemen. Yes, the last few years he's fallen off, and injuries have made him slow down and made him not as good as he used to be. His shot is just not where it used to be either. But he was still a damn fine defenseman.
And you still expected him to retire a Canuck because that's what he's been his whole career.
I think that's going to be the toughest thing for a lot of Canucks fans who were like completely fine with Edler if he was going to stay for another year on a cheap deal or, retire or whatever, is that he now has the option to search for career goal number 100 in a different uniform. And that uniform isn't a Canucks jersey. That's a bit tough. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Now we should keep in mind as well that, again, this was set through his agent on a radio show. It might be, this could be just them trying to get leverage for a better deal from Vancouver. This could be that sort of thing. I believe Jim Benning told Patrick Johnston of the province that is not necessarily the case, or at least from his point of view, that's not the case. It's more of he just wants to see what's out there kind of thing, and that they made an offer and that they seemed fine with, but they want to go see what else is out there kind of thing.
Yeah.
So who knows? But if it is true, let's say that it is, assuming that it is true, that he's ready to leave because of just the losing and stuff and everything. Especially, I think this year was very hard on players, and especially in Vancouver because of everything that went down in the last half of the year. I mean, with it was not a good time for anybody. I think I mentioned at one point on the show that I talked about that if you're a player and you have a season, not just particularly where you didn't win a lot of games, but more importantly, where you and every player you on your team contracted a dangerous disease, a deadly disease. It makes it very hard for you to want to come. It might make it very hard for you to want to come back to that organization just because of how that association to it, and that association to a very hard moment in your life kind of thing. It's tough I don't blame Edler for wanting to go somewhere else. I am not sure how much he'll command in the open market. He's getting old. He's an older guy. He's clearly, like you mentioned, he's clearly lost a step in, especially in his speed, and really he needs a very capable defensive partner now. He used to be able to carry a line on his own. He can't really do that, or a pairing on his own. He can't do that anymore. He really needs a strong, capable defender to play on his right side for him to be helpful. as helpful as he can be. He might be okay in sheltered minutes. Like, he might do all right. He might be good if you're a team that's deep enough to exercise load management with him and not necessarily play him in a full 82. The Canucks are obviously not that team. They don't have those options at their disposal. They don't have a huge glut of depth on their blue line, so they can't really afford to pay Alex Edler big bucks to play a bunch of to sit on the bench or something, to sit in the press box or something. They don't have that.
Yeah.
They don't have the players. They don't have the horses capable to do that. If they're going to pay Alex Edler, it's going to be to play every single night, probably close to 20 minutes.
They need him. Yeah, which might be. I mean, the interesting thing from the Edler thing was that his agent also said like this wasn't an issue with money or feeling disrespected. It was just like about exploring his options elsewhere, which tells me like he might go elsewhere where he doesn't have to play such a demanding role, and it might even be for league minimum, just so long as it's a right fit. He doesn't have to play 25 minutes a night. Like that's a big it's not like he's playing 25 minutes for the Canucks, like against like
players want to play.
He's playing against like the top elite competition. Like his body can't keep up with that anymore. I'm sure he's thinking like, if I come back, they have nothing else. Like I'm their backup plan for tough competition because they don't trust Quinn Hughes or they're not going to trust Jack Rathbone. So that's going to be me again.
And the guy who was your defensive partner last year is rumored to be on the way out the door with Nate Schmidt. So
it didn't really work with him either.
And it didn't work that. Yeah, it didn't work that well. So what are you going to do?
I completely understand why he would want to maybe explore like a different option that works for him.
He might just want a cup, which would be different than the ideas of what we had with Alex Edler in the past.
Right,
because he signed the last contract extension under with the idea that was probably going to be his last one. He had the opportunity to move on to a contender a couple times, and didn't. Maybe his priorities have changed in the last little while. Maybe he does want to go out and win a championship somewhere. I don't know what team is prepared to pick him up for that league min. Maybe Tampa Bay. They are in a bit of a cap. And I saw some people being like, he'll follow in the footsteps of Matthias Ohlund and Sammy Salo playing their twilight out in Tampa, which, maybe that's where it goes for him.
Maybe. But the Lightning are going to need a cheap defense or cheap deals, but he wouldn't be playing because he'd be playing behind Hedman, Sergachev, and
he would be more of a Luke Shen. He would be playing in that
very prescribed games.
Very prescribed. Very much only playing when guys aren't hurt. I mean, and they have injuries, so they do have injury problems. So maybe that might not be he might play a lot of games at the beginning of the year next season, just based on that. But yeah, that might be where he goes. He might go to a team. I will also say as well, I saw some people, very few, but I did see them, very few, not great people being like, well, why didn't he leave the last time? How dare he, why did he refuse to waive his no trade before, and now he's screwed the team out of assets? It's like, well, that's not his job. It is not his job to do that. He earned the no trade. He earned the no trade. He has every right to not use it, to not waive it because he earned it. And also, again, people's priorities change. Leave him alone. That's not his fault. That's how it goes sometimes.
And also, the timing last year was I believe, I don't remember.
In the middle of a pandemic. In the middle of a pandemic.
They had they had been asking Edler to waive his no trade clause or his no movement clause the week of the trade deadline. It wasn't like the beginning of the season. They were like, hey, Eddie, this might be the last time we can get you moved to a team that might win. Because they weren't thinking about that, because as far as they were concerned, they were going for playoffs. And then they started slumping around the trade deadline. And instead of deciding to sell, they traded for Tyler Toffoli, and that went swimmingly. But even the year before, they tried the same thing. Didn't work because they of course, did it last minute.
And by the time the trade deadline came up this last time, they were all sick. And are you going to trade Alex? Are you going to trade your franchise's best defenseman of all time right after he's recovering from COVID to potentially to a team on the other side of the border where his family can't see him for the next potentially 4 months? I don't think so. So what are you going to do? They weren't gonna do that. So
Is the problem? I don't even see
veterans. This isn't even I wouldn't even say this is if this is how it's going down now. It's not even the Canucks. There was nothing the Canucks could have done. It's not even this is not a shot at management either. This is just hey, priorities change sometimes.
I'll happily take the shot at management. This is why you don't sign players over 30 to deals that have no movement clauses, because it's an opportunity cost. You're taking a risk that they don't fall off and that they don't waive when you need them to waive. They thought they would be contending. They lucked into the playoffs thanks to the play-in round of the playoff bubble. Because people forget, they were on their way out of playoffs when they made the trade for Tyler Toffoli, and they did not really win when they had Tyler Toffoli in that lineup. He scored a lot, but that was about it. They were not trending in the right direction. And if the season had gone on for maybe another 2 weeks before the COVID pandemic really shut things down, they might have been on the outs. They might not have made playoffs. And we're looking at a completely different offseason for last year. So it's kind of wild to think everything that kind of snowballed after the COVID pandemic and what it changed in the team's priorities. But yeah, this is why you can't sign older players with no movement clause, no trade clauses. Look at Beagle, look at Roussel. Look at the number of no trade, no move clauses on the forward group, the veteran groups, I should say, of the Canucks.
Or if you are going, you know what? Well, let me amend that. If you are going to sign a veteran player and give them a no move clause, do it with a more team friendly contract rather than the $5 million that they're giving Edler. For example, Toronto gave Jason Spezza a no move clause on his league minimum deal.
Yeah,
and
completely fair.
That makes perfect sense, because he's a guy who's literally taken the least amount of money as an older guy because he wants to be on a cup contending team. So you're not going to then use that to move him somewhere else. The guy, he is making the sacrifice of taking less money so that he can win a championship, and for that that's why he earned a no move clause kind of thing, right? So that makes perfect sense. I believe one of the things is even that's been said is if Spezza got claimed off waivers, the threat was that he would retire just instantly. He would just be I'm done, retire, that's it. It's all done for me. So with Edler, in the case, they gave him both. They gave him the no move, and they gave him the big money. They gave him the big money deal. There are some cases where that might be okay. That might be fine. The Sharks were giving Joe Thornton. Usually what the Sharks did for the last, I think, so many years was every time Joe Thornton wouldn't re-sign right away, he would let the Sharks go, try to find the pieces to build a better team around what's going on, and then he'd basically sign for whatever's left over. But for 1 year, that again is the sacrifice of it's a no move clause for a 1 year contract. He's sacrificing term and a bigger payday for more money, sort of thing. If you want to give Edler $5 million for 1 year at a no move, I guess if you have that space, sure. But maybe don't give it all. You can't give it all. You gotta find compromises in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, here's a player that they absolutely need to make compromises on.
Can I ask you one thing before we get into?
No,
the next
you
thing?
can't actually. You're not allowed.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No questions.
No further questions.
What's your question?
My question was, do you think he'll come back? Because I do think that is. I'm not ready to do the whole soliloquy on what an amazing talent, underappreciated talent. There was the Daniel Wagner.
Oh yeah, it's got to be official today, before
which
you
was
do
very
that.
nice. Which was very nice and very exciting, very sweet. But also, I'm I don't want to do that yet because there's still a good chance he comes back, in my opinion. So I personally think he is coming back. I do think this is a little bit more on they're trying to squeeze the Canucks for a little bit of a better contract thing. What about you?
I'm pretty sure he's gone.
Okay, interesting. Where? Anywhere in particular?
Out of here. Nope. No reason or no place in particular. I'm just pretty sure he's gone.
Fair enough.
If I'm in Edler's shoes and I'm at that age, and your options are go back to a team that absolutely needs you to work your ass off to maybe be a bottom feeder again, or go elsewhere for a decent deal and maybe win a cup. You bet your ass I'm taking the latter option. There's just no way about it. Like, and the other thing is, like, the Sedins just got hired as advisors. They've been employed for the last 15 days learning the ropes. If those two can't convince Edler to re-sign for cheap, and his agent is like, yeah, we like the offers, but we just want to see what's out there instead, that's a pretty condemning thing right there for what Edler and his camp believes about the direction of the current team.
A little bit, yeah.
The Swedes were buddies, and if they can't convince their boy to do the team a favor, then I don't know what to tell you. So that's my thoughts on that.
That's all fair. That's all fair.
One of the bigger compromises that the Canucks need to make when it comes to their UFA sites, which according to some people, they're not even looking at UFAs right now. They're primarily focused on this expansion draft and trying to get like a good player. The rumors are abound that the Canucks are interested in Zach Hyman, who is our player in our episode's version of the Into the Canuckverse today. Zach Hyman is 29 years old. He played a key role with Austin Matthews in the Leafs top six, was on pace for a career year with 33 points in 43 games, but he's rumored to be asking for term on his deal. And I know what you're thinking, folks. What is term? How bad could it be? Well, folks, 29-year-old Zach Hyman is looking for 5 to 8 years on his next contract. And again, 29 years old. It's a big ask for a player who's pretty much been playing with an elite talent for the most of his time in Toronto. He's been completely fine otherwise, would be a great middle six option for the Canucks. And arguably, if you put him with Pettersson, he'd probably be pretty good too. But who wouldn't be? But it's obviously a big ask for an organization as depleted of cap space as the Canucks are. It's a bit bold to be targeting a player who is publicly requesting an 8-year contract northwards of $4 to $5 million per season. Yeah. Lachlan, your thoughts on this?
Well, my first thought is no.
Okay.
Just
second
no.
Thoughts though?
Don't do it. My second thought is, okay, Zach Hyman is a very good player. Like, this is nothing to do with the objective skill of Hyman. Yeah. He's a very good hockey player. There is a skill to be able to play with top tier talent. Like, that's because if
not everyone can do it.
Not everyone can do it. And not only that, no team is ever going to be able to fill an entire roster with star talent. Like, no team is filled with star talent. So you need players who can properly complement those players. Yeah. That's been our knock with the Canucks for a long time, is the fact that they don't always have that a lot of the players, especially in their depth, cannot complement their top tier talent like Pettersson, like Besser. Like
they're pigeonholed into their roles. You're either a top six forward or you're struggling to crack it on the bottom six.
Right. You need players who can jump up and who can do both. Right. Yeah. And to a degree, Hyman is that. The problem is that, like a lot of the ways the Canucks look at those kinds of holes and in their lineup they look for the name brand. Zach Hyman is now a name brand player as far as what a good complementary piece is, which means he's going to cost a lot more. You want the no name brand, no frills guy. You want Zach Hyman, who is 4 or 5 years younger, that people haven't heard about yet, who won't cost you potentially, I think close. What was it, like $6 million? I think is what the thing he's looking for, or at least what he was looking for from Toronto. Like, the asking price from Toronto was $6 million, like, per year, was $6 million per or something. Yeah. And again, if he's not going to give Toronto, a team that objectively, like, whether or not you like the Leafs, objectively speaking, he does have a better shot at winning long term with Toronto than he does with the Canucks based on the way things are going right now. Like that's objectively true.
Yeah.
If he's not going to give them a discount, a hometown discount to play on a potential cup contender team, he's not going to give one to the Canucks, a team that's very clearly would be asking him, hey, we really need you to come and make our team a lot better than it is. So the only way you're getting Zach Hyman is if you pay him that kind of money, or at least close to it, which the Canucks can 100% not do. They just don't have that money. It's not anywhere in the budget to do it. If it is, it means they've done something very, very bad, and they've done something wrong to clear up. Likely, they've done something wrong to clear up that cap space, because unless you're getting rid of Louis Eriksson or Tyler Myers, that money's not there. You have Pettersson to worry about. You have Hughes to worry about.
Yeah.
There's already been the talk that the Canucks are willing to move Besser for the right price. Again, we have this conversation every single year. I don't know why we're doing it again. Why you would ever give up Brock Besser on it when he's on a good deal, when he's on a team friendly contract and was your best player last year. I don't know why you do that. Zach Hyman is not going to help you. Zach Hyman will not make you a playoff team. I think it was Cam Robinson who put it really well, that the type of teams that should be breaking down the door to give Zach Hyman a good contract are the teams that are on the cusp of winning already. If you're a team that is trying to build into a let's see what we can do kind of let's see what happens kind of team that maybe lucks into a playoff spot, you 110% should not be giving a long-term contract to Zach Hyman. And if they do, it would be them making the same mistake that they've made 1,000 times already over. Like it just you're just asking for it to go wrong. Like you're just asking for trouble. It's just Louis Eriksson again. It's just Tyler Myers again. Maybe he's a little better than those players were at that point, but it doesn't matter. It's the same principle of this contract is going to age probably very badly, and you're going to get stuck with it. And like all the other ones.
It's like the same thing. Like, have they not learned anything from like Eriksson or Roussel or Beagle? Like, are they still thinking that signing the UFA to the big deal is what's going to put them over the edge? Like, have they not realized that the goal is to find these players before they're at UFAs? Like, find those players before they're on the big deal?
And more importantly, have they not realized that those contracts are always the ones that end up hurting them, like every time? Like if you told, like if they were signing those UFAs, the team wasn't good, but those players were actually doing something and like being a relatively like big part of at least getting the team some semblance of like wins and success, then okay, you can stomach it a little bit. But when we're talking about a situation where every time they give out a huge amount of money to a player and on free agency day, it always ends up immediately just going so badly every time. It like you have to have learned by now that it is directly making your team worse every time you do it. So hey, stop doing it. Please giving that money out.
Please stop doing
You have not landed on one since Ryan Miller. Stop it. Stop it right now.
On that same note, so I don't think we should talk about players too much, because we are going to eventually will them these things into existence.
We're going to manifest it. We're going to manifest them.
There's been some things that we've manifested on this show that like always seem to be really bad. Like when I jinxed the shit out, or who did we jinx? Colorado.
Who did you jinx?
Colorado.
You jinxed
when
Colorado,
I was like, Colorado's going to run
Vegas. You jinxed Montreal. You jinxed them all.
Yeah. So let's not will any bad things. Like the Canucks just need to not do anything and come out on top. That's what happened in the first part of this week. That's what we talked about in our first episode of the week, when we were like, they're looking pretty good by virtue of not doing anything. If they can keep not doing anything, they're going to come out okay. So that gets us into our next little topic of not doing anything stupid. Sadiar Shah, when talking about Adam Larson apparently wanting to explore the free agency market, posited a little thing saying Larson would be a great prototype fit for Quinn Hughes. Well, I almost don't want this to happen, because Larson is going to command a pretty decent chunk of change.
He might. Will he? I don't know if his stock is that high anymore. Like, I mean, it'll still be, granted, it'll still be more than the Canucks should realistically be paying for a player of Adam Larson's caliber.
Yes.
But I think as far as like if we're talking actual dollars and cents, it's probably actually not terrible. He has had some injury problems.
My thing is like, if you're going to overpay on a defenseman, are you really going to want to overpay on Adam Larson, or are you not going to try and find a better defenseman on the market? Because I don't think Adam Larson would be the best defenseman on the market.
That is actually a good question. Like if it is just a guarantee the Canucks are going to overpay for somebody, is there any one player that you would be fine that you looking at the list of players that are potentially available, like realistically available, I should say?
Yeah.
Is there one out there, forward or defenseman, that you would be willing to see come on that risk?
There is one. Unfortunately, he's not free this year. He's free next year, and that's Colton Parayko.
That would be a good one.
Colton Parayko is making like $5.5 million right now, and he stands to be a UFA at the end of next year. He'll still be like, I think 28 or 29 by the time he's free. Big boy. You know how Jim loves big boys. That's like kind of the incentive to not overspending right now on an Adam Larson, when you can wait a bit, toil through this year, and then go big game hunting next offseason when the UFA crop is way better. That'd be my logic behind it. Why overspend on average when you can overspend on something that might be like legit, like an actual legit UFA?
My one player here, very similar line of thinking in terms of defensemen as well. A guy we've talked about on the show before, Dougie Hamilton. If the Canucks could get Dougie Hamilton, you do it. He's a great pickup. He's a right-handed shot, which is exactly what you need right now.
Big boy.
He's a big boy. He can play on your power play. He can play on your PK. He can do a lot. He is a great defenseman. If the Canucks want to go, if the Canucks come to me and say we spent $6 million, we gave a 6x6 to Dougie Hamilton, that is the one player where I'd be like, that was a good call. That was a smart decision. He's
completely fine.
Completely fine. I see nothing wrong here. That was a good call. He is 28, so he's still in that kind of that semblance, but he does check off a lot of boxes that you need. So if you want to go get Dougie Hamilton, go ahead. Like, that would be a good pickup for them to look for.
Agreed. So Sadiar Shah, what are you doing? Don't do
this.
I
think what his tweet was, he was saying that this is what the Canucks are looking for. He's not saying that's what they should get. He's saying that's what management is looking for, is an Adam Larson.
I don't think he is. I don't even think he's saying that. I think he's just saying Larson's the prototype of what they're looking for to replace.
Well, yeah, that's what he's. Well, that's what he's saying.
But he's not saying they're looking for him or looking at Larson.
He's not. Yeah, he's not saying they're
clear.
Yeah, he's not saying that he's a player they're necessarily have asked about. He's just saying that is the type of player, exactly the type of player that they have said they're looking for. Yeah. So it might end up turning into like where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. So
Well, on the same topic of defensemen, why don't we get into the trade that basically kicked off this evening that happened right before we started podcasting. Nick Leddy was traded by the Islanders to Detroit for Richard Panik and the second round pick of the Edmonton Oilers that I think the Detroit Red Wings got that in the trade for Andreas Athanasiou. I think
Panik came with that trade, I believe. Yeah, or no, sorry, Panik came with the in the Anthony Mantha trade and everything.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. He was in the Washington deal, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think of where the pick came from. I think because it's Edmonton's second round pick. It's not Detroit, so it's going to be like middle of the second round or something like that. I think they got that when they traded Athanasiou to Edmonton last year.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
A bit of a bizarre trade because Nick Leddy is owed quite a bit of money. He's paid $5.5 million for 1 more year only before he's a UFA himself. His counting stats aren't that great, which is surprising because he was on an Islanders team that posted very, very good defensive numbers. And I think they just picked up Richard Panik, but he's like a non-player. It's like whatever. But the Red Wings retained 50% of Panik's salary and gave up a pick to acquire Leddy at full freight. It's like a rental trade that they made here. It's very peculiar.
Yeah, it's very questionable, especially, you know, we often mention Steve Yzerman as a good general manager to look at what you could be doing if your general manager is doing a good job. He's kind of a good measuring stick for that.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's a little odd because we talked about this. I think I don't know if this was on the last episode or the show before, but we talked right about why that whole Mantha trade was important, as specifically in the fact that he saw that the window wasn't going to line up with what Mantha's peak was going to be. So they traded him and recouped assets early on to get full value for him before it was too late. Nick Leddy, I don't see how he fits their plans either, because he's an older guy. He's been around for a while. He does not make your team much better. Like, and he doesn't move the needle for what your team is.
Yeah.
And yet
you're not contending. So why would you be renting anybody?
Why? And yet you paid more. You paid to bring Nick Leddy on board, even though in theory the Islanders kind of should have been paying you. Like, you shouldn't have had to. I don't think you should have had to retain any salary on Panik for that. Like,
the only thing I can think of is they're retaining 50% of Leddy and plan to flip him for an even better return at the trade deadline.
That's the one thing, yeah.
But this current configuration would mean that he is likely exposing Troy Stecher in the expansion draft. I mean, they could still go eight forwards and D protected with one goalie, because realistically at forward they don't have anything.
Yeah, so, like, what else is there to? I mean, unless of course they don't have enough players at forward to potentially expose.
Right.
That would be the one wrinkle here, is if they end up having to go in that other route just because they don't have the players to match it up. Who knows? But yeah, it is a bit weird that now you are going to protect Leddy. Potentially defenseman was the one spot where you might actually have enough forwards to actually move on from. Who knows? Maybe if they do go, just looking at their roster right now, it does seem like it would make the most sense for them to go, okay, we're going to protect pretty much everyone. We're going to leave, probably Vladimir Namestnikov exposed, and that, with that in mind, we're going to take Stecher, DeKeyser, Leddy. We're going to take DeKeyser, Leddy, Stahl, and whoever else is there. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, they really, if you look at their list, it's like really, they don't have many UF or players on their list that are exposable. But at the end of the day, like, they just don't have anyone really worth protecting. So I could definitely see Yzerman using this as a ploy to get some kind of better return, get like an exposable asset in return for Nick Leddy, and then, protect a combination of Stecher and whatever he gets back in a Leddy trade.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think.
Especially because Stetcher's on such a team-friendly contract. Like, I don't know why you would want to. I don't know why you just let him get picked up by Seattle for free. Like, that seems like that seems like a poor call, especially when you have some other guys in your roster you could theoretically are a little bit more worth moving on from, sort of thing, right? Like, it just doesn't seem like the best call. Now, that being said, if Stecher is the guy that ends up getting left exposed and Seattle picks him up, oh my goodness!
So for those that don't know,
incredible.
There was like a bunch of news that dropped, I think today and yesterday, that Pittsburgh expansion list might leave Jared McCann unprotected. There's rumors that Calgary might protect Mark Giordano so that Chris Tanev could be exposed. Like,
which is, I would say, the most
baffling. Yeah,
like
you
Giordano,
just signed him to a huge deal.
You just signed Tanev, and he had an incredible year. He had a career year. why would you leave him exposed over guy who's probably going to retire in like by next season? Why on earth would you do that?
Yeah,
that's a terrible call if I'm Calgary. But I mean, if Calgary gets worse, that's better for the Canucks. So to each their own, I guess.
This is basically the expansion draft of the Vancouver Canucks because Florida Panthers signed Gustav Forsling to a 3-year deal in order to be able to protect him at this upcoming expansion draft too. Like they like what he did in the playoffs. If you don't know, Gustav Forsling was traded by the Canucks immediately after being drafted for 15 games of Adam Clendening.
Adam Clendening, yeah.
So the Seattle Kraken, judging on who they value, could end up with a D-core that includes Chris Tanev, Troy Stecher, and a top 6 that includes Jared McCann. So the rivalry right away would be phenomenal because how many upset Vancouver fans that were mad that Stecher, Tanev, and McCann were all traded away for nothing or lost for nothing in 2 players' cases are now like leading the way for the direct rival down the highway. That is incredibly spicy.
That would be fun. Like in terms of from a pure storyline standpoint, that would be I would lose my mind a little bit just on the fact of I cannot believe that the Canucks are about to watch their new geographical rival take some of their most fan favorite players and make them their own. It would be I would be kind of mad. I'd be very mad, but at the same time be like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like just the fact that they would have this instant rivalry. All that's left is for the Seattle to be like we've made an agreement with Montreal where we don't take Jake Allen in the expansion draft. They've agreed to give us Tyler Toffoli, and and maybe like Brendan Gallagher as well or something. And it's just like, oh, cool. All of Vancouver's favorite sons just coming to showing up in their backyard to exact revenge on them.
Oh yeah, and then Alex Edler signs in Seattle.
Alex Edler signs there,
team-friendly deal, so he doesn't have to move his family.
Roberto Luongo somehow ends up becoming like assistant GM in Seattle. Like just every single. It's just like the Avengers assembling.
There's a lot of options where it all leads to just like face palming and laughter. Which is great.
Who else is out there that could possibly what other Canuck could they possibly
former Canucks are still kicking around the league? Ben Hutton. Is Ben Hutton exposable?
Ben Hutton probably is. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine Toronto's got him going to leave him
but you know
exposed.
What? I think
but he's a UFA.
And he has to play 27 games with the team he was currently signed to, so I don't think he'd count as. Actually, no. I guess they could still take him.
So they could negotiate with him.
They can still sign him in free agency. But
they can still sign him. So
that would be amazing.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe maybe we're gonna wake up and find out well, I guess they've already got their broadcast team. I was gonna say what if they're just we've signed John Garrett.
We've signed Shorty.
John Garrett. Yeah, Shorty and Cheech just move over to to the new Seattle station or something.
There's a rivalry right there.
That people might bring out the pitchforks for that. People might riot if they lost those guys.
Shorty and Cheech have been released by Sportsnet 650. They are now the play-by-play and color commentary for the Seattle Kraken. In their steed is totally Andrew Walker and someone else that everyone hates, Mike Fuda.
And me. It's like they signed me. It's like, God damn it! Everyone has to listen to me more. I'm just oh God, who's got? I can't tell who the puck is. Who's got?
I don't know who has the puck, but they're doing pretty good.
It's blue team. They're moving it up the zone. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the other team. Shoot. Who's that coming up the wing? I can't see without my glasses on. I forgot him today, guys. I'm so sorry.
That'd be
awful
TV.
Me.
But anyway,
yeah, terrible. No one wants that. No one wants me on television. At least not right now.
A lot of juicy, spicy storylines that could be coming out of this expansion draft. We're gonna like hopefully have this episode out really early, so it's not out of date by midnight tonight, because I have a feeling this Leddy trade for Panic is gonna like start really kicking GMs into gear here, because they only have so much time before the roster freeze takes effect, and they're pretty much left to only figure out their protections, and that's it. So one last thing before we head out for the night. This is a very Canucks-centered episode, if you really think about it.
Especially in relation to all of the episodes we've done in like the last few months. Yes, it is very Canucks-centric. And it probably will stay that way.
Yeah, so one more really Canucks-centered storyline to close us out. Former Canucks GM Mike Gillis, the man that built the team that went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, only to fall short.
But actually, Dave Notice signed.
I don't have time
traded
for
for
this.
Luongo, and also all of the Kessler. And
I don't have time.
I'm sorry. That was mean. I'm sorry. Continue.
But anyway, he's set to take the second highest position in the NHLPA, only second to Don Fair, according to The Athletic's Thomas Drance on Twitter. It's a pretty huge deal. Gillis used to be a player agent. He knows the ins and outs of the league. He's already got the contacts with the GMs. If I'm a player and I see that Mike Gillis is now running the show for the Player Association, I am so happy, because this guy has got a bone to pick with the league that has shut him out. And now he's representing the players that can't be shut out barring intervention from the ownership. So the next couple of years with a flat salary cap, it's going to be just so juicy for Mike Gillis, who is all about shaking up organizations and looking for institutional change. So buckle up, as Uncle Elite put it on Twitter. It's going to be a bumpy ride for the league.
Now, I will say, like, that he's a consultant, right? So he's still like, I don't know exactly what, I forget exactly what title he was given. But essentially it's a consultant role. Like, I do think people should temper their expectations a little bit, just in the sense of not because I don't think if Gillis was given the power to do so, to make those changes, he would. He 100% would.
I think he has been.
Worry. Yeah, and I do worry, knowing the NHLPA and what their idea of a good day's work, of a successful day's work is, that it might be a lot there. He might not get as much say in what goes on as people might think. I hope not. I hope he gets a lot of change, because again, he could do a lot. He could do a lot of good change for the NHLPA, which I think you and I have talked. We've been pretty critical about them dropping the ball in a lot of different cases, specifically when it comes to protecting players' safety, and looking and making a bigger push for players to be able to market themselves on a grander scale, and like all the other things that that unions should be doing in a lot of cases. There are a lot of things that the NHLPA as a union has done that I think most unions would look at and say, this is not a great job. You're not doing it. You seem to be helping out the other guys a lot more than your actual union members. Yeah. So hopefully he is given that power. But I do, knowing the institutionalized like history of the NHLPA, I do worry. Now, the one thing that does give me hope, especially, is that I think you and I talked about this before. I'm not going to tell the whole. If you want the whole saga on the NHLPA, specifically when they were headed by a man named Alan Eagleson, I believe a couple other Canuck podcasts have done full episodes on him before. But essentially, the guy who started the NHLPA, or at the very least was running it for a very, very long time prior to into the mid 90s. Essentially was later thrown in jail for fraud and among other things. And one of the key cases that put him behind bars was actually when he defrauded Mike Gillis out of money when he was injured as an NHL player back when he was with the Bruins.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody who has a history, who has like motive to not like the way the NHLPA is run and the way that it can sometimes not always look out for the best interest of its players, Mike Gillis is that guy. So he could come in and make a lot of changes. And I think it was Jeff Patterson that said that Don Fair is in his late 70s, supposedly is looking to retire relatively soon.
I can imagine why.
So I guess, you're getting up there in age.
Yeah.
You might
Don
want to spend
Fair
time with your
is
kids and
72.
grandkids. He's 72.
He wants time with his great grandkids right now. Are you kidding?
Probably. I mean, yeah. So if that happens, Mike Gillis might be the next guy in line to take over. So who knows?
Good for him. He's been a guy that like most people like in the Vancouver market, like regardless of like the Benning bro and whatever faction, like he's a really smart guy. Like he obviously knows like the ins and outs of the league, and like he's a very progressive guy, and progressiveness is kind of what the league needs to adapt and grow. And we've talked about that like thousands of times on this program, is like how the NHL could do better to adapt to the changing times. So yeah, this is a great step, even though he's not technically hired by the NHL, but he's a member of like a organization that will demand change and is the best one at affecting change, because the league, as most people can, guess, is nothing without the players. And so if he's representing the player base, then shit's going to get done the way that the players and Mike Gillis wanted to be done. So that's very exciting. So
hopefully so. That would be very good. And, again, putting your, like, whether or not you loved every single on ice decision he made as a GM, that doesn't, he could be he's clearly a very good thinking outside of the norm and not just going with, and not just doing the same thing that everybody else does. The whole reason the Canucks were so good in that short term, for those 2 years they won the President's Trophy and their Stanley Cup run, is because he looked for different ways outside of just, salary cap, outside of just what players he was signing, and looked at how can I improve our travel? How can I improve the way
he looked outside the box during a time when nobody was looking outside the box. And
a lot of the things that he instilled with Vancouver are now standard with every team in the league. So
or teams outside of the NHL. Like he was getting calls on, I think, sleep study stuff from like NBA franchises and stuff like that. Like, so what he was doing wasn't just an NHL thing. It had global impact, and that's crazy. So this is really exciting for the Players Union. They've needed some serious leadership for quite a while. Should be exciting times. Otherwise, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the CreaseCast. Again, we apologize wholeheartedly for all of the stuff we've said in this episode being completely out of date by the time you listen to it. We're sorry. We're trying our best. Hopefully Nick Leddy hasn't been traded by the time you're listening to this tomorrow morning on Saturday.
That would be very funny if he just got immediately flipped right away, like
as soon as
Mike Hoffman trade.
As soon as I hit end broadcast, it's gonna be like Nick Leddy flipped for 2 first-round picks, a 50% retained. Like that would I don't even know. Would you be mad at that point? I don't know.
Nah, I honestly think we'll make it into the morning. I don't think we're gonna see much else here.
Yeah.
Outside of that.
Otherwise, folks, thank you so much for listening to this one. It was great to actually talk about all these different news beats and how they tie to the Canucks for a change. If you like this, you're going to love our other episode this week, where we basically talked about all the dumb things that other GMs were doing and how the Canucks were skating by and not avoiding disaster. If you like that, you can follow us on all of your usable podcast platforms. That includes,
as opposed to your unusable ones.
True, because some of them are really bad. But anyway, you can find us on the good ones, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Amazon, Stitcher, Overcast, and a bunch of other crap I've never heard of. But they're all out there. rate, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and to any podcast service. We appreciate the reviews, and it helps us in the algorithms for getting our stuff noticed by the YouTube and podcast robots. So please do that. We appreciate it. I am Cody Sievertson. You can follow me at Cody Sievertson on Twitter. My website is cometsharvest.com. Bookmark it now before the name changes, because otherwise, it's going to be impossible to find.
It's going to be interesting figuring that one out. Figuring out where you're going to go.
I might crowdsource that one.
That might be the hardest part. Is they did not give you anything. They did not really give you much to work with on that one.
I have nothing to work with. I made that joke on. I'm pretty sure I made the joke on both the Roxy Fever episode I was on and the AHL Calder Farmstead. I was like, I don't know what to call it. It's either going to be Canucks Harvest and I get sued, or it's going to be Johnny on the Harvest and I stop writing because I hate the name so much. So otherwise,
we'll workshop it. We'll send it to the PR people.
If you're looking on our YouTube, I just switched the banners up a bit. You can also subscribe to our Patreon, where Lachlan is constantly churning out written content. We're supposed to be doing more videos and special episodes, but you can blame me for that. But we have a little thingy here that Lachlan I think he was going to show you. If you're following our YouTube channel, we got some merch samples ordered in to see what they look like. And we got us some CreaseCast shirts, possibly coming in via Teespring. They're pretty good. Nice little goalie mask logo with the headies. So stay tuned for that. Looks great. We're gonna hopefully have a bit of a shop set up soon once we kind of get the artwork set up soon. We're not gonna pull a Canucks and set a date and then not have it ready in time. So just keep in mind, something's coming on the way.
It's good stuff comes to those who wait, or whatever.
Yes,
you can't rush greatness.
You can't rush greatness. Lachlan, where can they find your greatness?
They can find my greatness at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok sometimes at Lach and the Crease, or you can check out lachandthecrease.com. I post articles sometimes. I should have something coming out pretty soon. I have at least 2 articles that I'm hoping to get out before the expansion draft drops. So we'll see. And then keep on make sure you check out our Patreon as well.
Yeah. Expand your consumption. Follow Lachlan at all his stuff. We'll catch you guys at our next episode, probably next Tuesday, when a whole fuckload of news is probably going to get dropped, and we're going to have another massive 2-hour episode for you. Thanks again for listening, folks, and we'll catch you next time. Bye!
Bye!